The morning air tasted like betrayal, though I didn't know it yet. I stood in my childhood kitchen, the one with the chipped yellow tiles Mom always promised to replace, breathing in the scent of burnt coffee and something sweeter, maybe cinnamon rolls warming in the oven. The September light filtered through the lace curtains Grandma had hung 30 years ago, casting soft shadows across the worn linoleum floor. My fingers traced the familiar grooves in the countertop, the ones Dad had accidentally carved when he'd gotten too enthusiastic with a pizza cutter back when I was 7. Everything felt safe. Everything felt like home. My sister Rachel breezed through the back door, bringing with her the smell of autumn leaves and her expensive perfume, the kind that costs more than my monthly grocery budget. She wore white. Not wedding white, but close enough to make my stomach tighten. Her smile was bright, too bright, like she'd practiced it in the mirror. "Big day tomorrow," she said, setting down a bakery box on the counter. The cardboard made a soft thud against the formica. "I brought croissants. The good ones, from that French place downtown." I wanted to hug her. I wanted to thank her for being here, for helping me prepare for my wedding to Marcus, the man I'd loved since college, the man who made me laugh until my sides ached, who knew exactly how I liked my tea and never forgot to call his mother on Sundays. But something in Rachel's voice made me pause. It was too casual, too carefully neutral, like she was reading lines from a script she'd memorized but didn't quite believe. "Thanks," I said, reaching for the box. Our fingers brushed, and hers were cold despite the warm kitchen. "You didn't have to do that." "Of course I did. You're my sister." She pulled her hand back quickly, tucking a strand of her perfectly highlighted hair behind her ear. "Where's Mom?" "Upstairs. She's been up there for an hour, doing something with the flowers for tomorrow." I poured myself a cup of coffee, the liquid dark and bitter, needing more sugar than I usually took. The mug was warm against my palms, almost too warm, but I held on anyway. "Dad's at the venue, making sure they set up the chairs right. You know how he gets." Rachel laughed, but it sounded hollow, like an echo in an empty room. "Yeah. Perfectionist to the end." We stood there in silence, the kind that used to be comfortable but now felt heavy, pressing down on my shoulders like a wet blanket. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere upstairs, Mom's footsteps creaked across the old floorboards. A car passed outside, its engine fading into the distance. "Are you nervous?" Rachel asked finally, not meeting my eyes. She was looking at the croissants, at the wall, at anything but me. "A little," I admitted. "But mostly excited. Marcus is everything I ever wanted. He's kind, he's funny, he's got this way of making even the worst days feel manageable. Remember when my car broke down last winter, and I was stranded at that gas station in the middle of nowhere? He drove 2 hours in a snowstorm to get me. Didn't even complain once." "Yeah." Rachel's voice was flat. "He's great." Something twisted in my chest, a small knot of unease that I tried to ignore. "You okay? You seem off." "I'm fine." She smiled again, that same practiced smile. "Just tired. Wedding planning is exhausting, even when it's not your own wedding." I wanted to push, to ask what was really wrong, but Mom's voice called down from upstairs, asking if anyone had seen her good scissors, and the moment passed. Rachel grabbed a croissant and disappeared into the living room, leaving me alone with my coffee and the growing sense that something was very, very wrong. The rest of the day unfolded in a blur of last-minute details and forced cheerfulness. Mom fussed over the flower arrangements, rearranging baby's breath and roses until they looked exactly the same as they had an hour before. Dad came home smelling like fresh-cut grass and furniture polish, reporting that the venue was perfect, everything was perfect, tomorrow would be perfect. But his eyes didn't quite meet mine when he said it, and his hug felt stiff, mechanical, like he was going through the motions. My best friend Jenna arrived around 3 in the afternoon, her arms full of garment bags and her face flushed from rushing. She smelled like vanilla body spray and the cigarettes she swore she'd quit but still snuck when she thought no one was looking. "Sorry I'm late," she panted, dropping everything on the couch. "Traffic was insane. But I'm here now, and I'm ready to make sure tomorrow is the best day of your life." Jenna had been my rock since freshman year of high school, when we'd bonded over a shared hatred of gym class and a mutual love of terrible reality TV. She knew all my secrets, all my fears, all the dreams I was too scared to say out loud. If anyone could sense that something was off, it would be her. "Thank God you're here," I said, pulling her into a tight hug. She squeezed back, hard, and for a moment everything felt normal again. "I feel like I'm losing my mind. Everyone's acting so weird." Jenna pulled back, studying my face with those sharp green eyes that never missed anything. "Weird how?" "I don't know. Just off. Like they're all keeping a secret or something." I lowered my voice, glancing toward the kitchen where Mom was clattering dishes. "Rachel barely looked at me this morning. Dad's being super formal. And Mom keeps crying when she thinks I'm not watching." "It's probably just wedding jitters," Jenna said, but her expression was troubled. "Parents get emotional when their kids get married. And siblings can be weird about it too, especially if they're not in a relationship themselves." "Is Rachel seeing anyone?" "Not that I know of." I chewed my bottom lip, tasting the waxy residue of the lipstick I'd applied that morning. "But it feels like more than that. It feels like they're all waiting for something to happen." Jenna squeezed my hand, her fingers warm and reassuring. "Look, if something's wrong, we'll figure it out. But right now, you need to focus on tomorrow. On marrying Marcus. On starting your life together. Don't let your anxiety spiral, okay?" I nodded, trying to believe her, trying to push down the sick feeling in my stomach. "Okay. You're right. I'm just being paranoid." But I wasn't being paranoid. I wish I had been. That evening, we had what Mom called a rehearsal dinner, though it was really just pizza and salad in the dining room. The table covered with the same floral tablecloth we'd used for every family gathering since I could remember. The fabric was soft under my fingertips, worn thin in places, smelling faintly of lavender detergent. Marcus sat beside me, his hand resting on my knee under the table, his thumb drawing small circles that should have been comforting but somehow made me more anxious. He looked perfect, as always. Dark hair just messy enough to be charming, blue eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled, a jawline that could have been carved from marble. He wore a simple gray sweater that I'd bought him for his birthday, and every time he laughed at one of Dad's terrible jokes, my heart should have swelled with love and anticipation. Instead, I felt like I was watching everything through a pane of glass, separate and distant. "So, Marcus," Dad said, cutting his pizza with the side of his fork the way he always did, the scraping sound setting my teeth on edge. "You ready for tomorrow? Ready to officially join this crazy family?" Marcus grinned, squeezing my knee. "More than ready, sir. I've been waiting for this day since the moment I met your daughter." "That's sweet," Mom said, but her voice cracked on the last word. She dabbed at her eyes with her napkin, the paper crinkling. I'm sorry. I promised myself I wouldn't cry. It's okay, Mrs. Patterson, Marcus said gently. It's an emotional time. Rachel had been silent through most of dinner, pushing salad around her plate without eating, the lettuce wilting under her fork. Now she looked up, her eyes meeting Marcus's for just a second before darting away. Something passed between them, something I couldn't name but could feel in the sudden tension that made the air thick and hard to breathe. Rachel, you've barely touched your food, I said, trying to sound casual. Are you feeling okay? I'm fine. Her voice was sharp, defensive. Just not hungry. You should eat something, Mom fussed. You'll need your energy tomorrow. Being a maid of honor is hard work. Rachel's laugh was bitter, almost cruel. Yeah. Maid of honor. Lucky me. The table went silent. Even the sound of chewing stopped. Dad cleared his throat, a rough, uncomfortable sound. Marcus's hand tightened on my knee, his fingers digging in just a little too hard. What's that supposed to mean? I asked, my voice smaller than I wanted it to be. Nothing. Rachel stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor with a screech that made me wince. I need some air. She left through the back door, letting it slam behind her. The sound echoed through the house, final and angry. I started to get up, to follow her, but Mom's hand on my arm stopped me. Let her go, honey. She's just stressed. About what? What does she have to be stressed about? I looked around the table, at Mom's red-rimmed eyes, at Dad's carefully neutral expression, at Marcus who was suddenly very interested in his pizza. Will someone please tell me what's going on? Nothing's going on, Dad said firmly. Your sister's going through some things. Personal things. It has nothing to do with you or the wedding. But it did. I knew it did. I could feel it in my bones, and the way my hands trembled as I picked up my water glass, and the way my throat felt too tight to swallow. Jenna, who had been watching everything with increasing concern, spoke up. Maybe we should call it a night. Big day tomorrow. Everyone needs rest. Good idea, Mom said quickly, too quickly. She started gathering plates, the ceramic clinking together. You girls head upstairs. I'll clean up. I'll help, Marcus offered, but Mom shook her head. No, no. You should get going. It's bad luck to see the bride the night before the wedding. That's the morning of, I corrected automatically, but Marcus was already standing, already kissing my cheek with lips that felt cold and dry. Your mom's right. I should go. Get some sleep, okay? Tomorrow's going to be perfect. Everyone kept saying that. Perfect. Like if they said it enough times, it would be true. I walked Marcus to the door, the floorboards creaking under our feet. The night air that rushed in when I opened it was cool and damp, smelling like rain that hadn't fallen yet. Street lights cast orange pools on the sidewalk, and somewhere a dog barked, the sound lonely and far away. I love you, Marcus said, pulling me close. His cologne was strong, almost overwhelming, something woody and expensive that Rachel had helped him pick out last month. I can't wait to marry you. I love you too, I whispered against his chest, feeling his heartbeat, steady and strong. Too steady. Too calm for a man about to get married. He kissed me, long and deep, and I tried to lose myself in it, tried to forget the weirdness of the day, the tension, the secrets. But when he pulled away and walked to his car, I felt relief instead of longing, and that scared me more than anything else. Upstairs, Jenna was already in my room, sprawled across my childhood bed with its faded purple comforter and the stuffed animals I'd never had the heart to throw away. The lamp on my nightstand cast a warm yellow glow, making shadows dance on the walls covered with posters from high school, bands I'd loved and movies I'd watched 100 times. "Okay," she said as soon as I closed the door. "What the hell was that?" I sank down beside her, the mattress dipping, springs squeaking softly. "I don't know. I really don't know." Rachel looked like she wanted to murder someone. "Your parents looked guilty as hell. And Marcus." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Marcus seemed nervous. He's getting married tomorrow. Of course he's nervous." "No." Jenna sat up, turning to face me. Her expression was serious, worried. Not wedding nervous. Caught nervous. Like he's hiding something. My stomach dropped. "You think he's cheating on me?" "I didn't say that." "But you're thinking it." Jenna sighed, running her hands through her short dark hair until it stood up in spikes. "I'm thinking something's not right. And I'm thinking you should trust your gut." "What's it telling you?" I closed my eyes, trying to sort through the tangle of emotions in my chest. Fear. Confusion. Dread. And underneath it all, a small, insistent voice that had been whispering since this morning, since Rachel walked in with her fake smile and cold hands. "It's telling me that tomorrow is going to change everything," I said quietly. "And not in a good way." We stayed up late, talking in circles, trying to make sense of things that didn't make sense. Jenna suggested confronting Rachel, confronting Marcus, confronting my parents, but I was too scared. Too scared of what I might learn, of what might shatter if I pushed too hard. Eventually, exhaustion won, and we fell asleep with the light still on, curled up like we used to during sleepovers in middle school, when our biggest problems were pop quizzes and boys who didn't text back. I dreamed of my wedding. But in the dream, when I walked down the aisle, everyone was crying. Not happy tears. Sad ones. Pitying ones. And when I reached the altar, Marcus wasn't there. Rachel was, wearing a wedding dress, and she was smiling that practiced smile, and I woke up with my heart pounding and sweat cooling on my skin. The room was dark. Jenna snored softly beside me. My phone on the nightstand read 3:47 in the morning, the numbers glowing blue in the darkness. I should have gone back to sleep. I should have stayed in bed. But I heard voices downstairs, low and urgent, and I couldn't stop myself from getting up, from creeping to the door, from opening it just enough to hear. "We have to tell her." That was Dad, his voice rough with emotion. "We can't let her walk into this blind." "And say what?" Mom's voice was thick with tears. "That her sister and her fiancé have been having an affair for 6 months? That we've known for weeks and didn't say anything because we didn't want to ruin the wedding?" The world tilted. The floor seemed to drop away beneath my feet. I grabbed the doorframe, my fingers digging into the wood, splinters biting into my skin, but I barely felt it. The hallway spun, and I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what I'd just heard. Rachel and Marcus. Marcus and Rachel. 6 months. An affair. My sister. My fiancé. My family knew. They all knew. "It's too late now," Dad said. "The wedding's in less than 12 hours. Everyone's coming. We've paid for everything. If we tell her now, it'll destroy her. It's going to destroy her anyway, Mom sobbed. God, how did we let this happen? How did we not see it sooner? Because they were careful. Because they're both liars. Dad's voice turned hard, angry. I want to kill him. I want to throw him out and tell everyone what he did. But Rachel begged us not to. She said she'd end it, that it was a mistake, that she'd never forgive herself. She's ending it by standing up there as maid of honor? By watching her sister marry the man she's been sleeping with? Mom's voice rose, sharp and bitter. That's not ending it. That's torture. For everyone. What else can we do? If we cancel now, everyone will want to know why. The whole family, all our friends, they'll all find out. The humiliation will kill her. And letting her marry him won't? Silence. Long and heavy and suffocating. Then Mom again, quieter. Maybe he really does love her. Maybe it was just a fling with Rachel, and he chose our daughter in the end. Maybe they can be happy. You don't believe that? No. But I want to. I want to believe that tomorrow will be okay, that somehow this will all work out, that we made the right choice by staying quiet. We didn't make the right choice. We made the easy choice. And she's going to pay for it. I couldn't listen anymore. I stumbled back into my room, closing the door as quietly as I could with hands that shook so badly I could barely grip the knob. Jenna was still asleep, her breathing steady and peaceful, and I envied her so much it hurt. I wanted to wake her, to tell her everything, to scream and cry and break things. But I couldn't move. I stood there in the middle of my childhood bedroom, surrounded by memories of a girl who didn't exist anymore, and felt everything inside me crack and splinter. Marcus and Rachel. The two people I loved most in the world, besides my parents. The two people I trusted completely. They'd been together for 6 months. 6 months of lies and sneaking around and betraying me in the worst possible way. And my parents knew. They'd known for weeks and said nothing, did nothing, let me keep planning a wedding to a man who was sleeping with my sister. How many times had Rachel helped me pick out decorations? How many times had she smiled and hugged me and pretended to be excited? How many times had Marcus kissed me and told me he loved me and then gone to her? The nausea hit suddenly, violently. I barely made it to the bathroom before I was sick, retching into the toilet until there was nothing left but bile and the sour taste of betrayal. I sat on the cold tile floor, my back against the tub, shaking and crying as quietly as I could. The bathroom smelled like the lavender soap Mom bought in bulk, and it made me sick all over again. I don't know how long I sat there. Long enough for the sky outside the small window to start turning gray with approaching dawn. Long enough for my tears to dry into salt tracks on my cheeks. Long enough for the shock to fade and something else to take its place. Something cold and hard and calculating. They thought I didn't know. They were all going to stand there today, at my wedding, and pretend everything was fine. Rachel would hand me my bouquet and adjust my veil and give a speech about sisterly love. Marcus would say his vows and slip a ring on my finger and kiss me in front of everyone. My parents would cry happy tears and toast to our future. And all of them would be lying. But I knew. I knew everything. And that gave me power. I stood up slowly, my legs weak and unsteady. I looked at myself in the mirror above the sink. My face was pale, eyes red and swollen, hair a tangled mess. I looked like someone who just had her world destroyed. I looked like a victim. I turned on the faucet, the water running cold and then warm. I washed my face, scrubbing away the tears and the evidence of my breakdown. I brushed my teeth, gargled with mouthwash until my mouth burned. I combed my hair, pulling it back into a neat ponytail. And with each action, I felt myself changing, hardening, becoming someone new. If they wanted to play pretend, I could play pretend. If they wanted to lie, I could lie better. And when the moment was right, when everyone was gathered and watching and waiting, I would tell the truth. I would burn it all down. Not to save the relationship, there was nothing left to save, but to make sure they all understood that I wasn't weak, wasn't stupid, wasn't someone they could manipulate and control. I went back to my room. Jenna was starting to stir, making small sleepy sounds. I climbed into bed beside her, my mind racing with plans and possibilities. The sun was rising, painting the sky pink and gold through my window. It was my wedding day. And it was going to be unforgettable. Morning, Jenna mumbled, rolling over to look at me. Her eyes widened. Jesus, did you sleep at all? You look terrible. Couldn't sleep, I said, and it wasn't a lie. Too excited. She studied me for a long moment, and I could see her trying to decide if she believed me. You sure that's all it is? Yeah. Just wedding jitters. Like you said. I forced a smile, and it felt strange on my face, like a mask that didn't quite fit. Today's going to be perfect. There was that word again. Perfect. But this time, I meant it. Just not in the way anyone expected. The morning was chaos. Mom burst into my room at 7, already dressed and made up, her perfume filling the space with the scent of roses and something sharper, maybe gin, though she swore she hadn't been drinking. She fussed over my hair, my makeup, my dress, her hands fluttering like nervous birds. She kept crying, dabbing at her eyes with tissues that left little white flecks on her cheeks. My baby's getting married, she kept saying, over and over, like a prayer or a curse. My beautiful baby girl. I let her fuss. I sat still and quiet while she worked, while Jenna helped me into my dress, while the photographer Mom had hired snapped pictures of every moment. The dress was beautiful, ivory lace with a sweetheart neckline and a train that pooled on the floor like spilled cream. It had cost a fortune, money my parents had saved for years. Money they'd spent on a wedding they knew was built on lies. Rachel arrived at 8, carrying my bouquet and wearing her maid of honor dress, a soft blue that brought out her eyes. She looked beautiful. She always looked beautiful. That had been the story of our lives, Rachel the pretty one, me the smart one. Rachel the charming one, me the responsible one. Rachel the one who got everything she wanted, even when what she wanted belonged to me. You look amazing, she said, and her voice only shook a little. Marcus is going to die when he sees you. I met her eyes in the mirror. Is he? Something flickered across her face. Guilt, maybe. Fear. Of course. He loves you so much. Does he? I kept my voice light, curious. How do you know? Because he tells everyone. Because it's obvious. She was fidgeting with the bouquet, pulling at the ribbons. Why are you asking me this? No reason. Just nervous, I guess. I turned away from the mirror, from her reflection that looked so much like mine but twisted, corrupted. Can you help me with my veil? Her hands trembled as she pinned it in place, her fingers brushing against my hair. We were so close I could smell her perfume, the same expensive one from yesterday, and underneath it, something else. Men's cologne. Marcus's cologne. She'd been with him. Maybe last night, maybe this morning. While I was upstairs breaking down, while our parents were arguing about whether to tell me, she'd been with him. The realization settled over me like ice water, cold and clarifying. There, Rachel said, stepping back. Perfect. That word again. I was starting to hate it. The venue was a restored barn on the edge of town, all exposed beams and string lights and rustic charm. Marcus and I had fallen in love with it the first time we saw it, had imagined our future starting here, surrounded by family and friends and love. Now, as the limo pulled up and I saw the guests arriving, saw the flowers and the decorations and the white chairs arranged in perfect rows, all I could think about was how much I wanted to watch it burn. Dad helped me out of the limo, his hand steady even though his face was gray and drawn. He looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. Good. He should look like that. They all should. You okay, sweetheart? He asked quietly. Never better, I said, and smiled. We waited in a small room off the main hall, me and Jenna and Rachel and 2 other bridesmaids, college friends who chatted nervously about how beautiful everything was, how lucky I was, how romantic it all felt. I nodded and smiled and said all the right things while inside I counted down the minutes. Through the door, I could hear the string quartet playing, could hear the murmur of voices as people found their seats. I recognized some of them. Aunt Linda with her loud laugh. Marcus's college roommate who always told terrible jokes. My grandmother, who'd flown in from Florida and kept asking if I was eating enough. All these people, dressed up and excited, ready to witness what they thought would be the happiest day of my life. It's time, the wedding coordinator said, poking her head in. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a clipboard she clutched like a weapon. Bridesmaids, line up. Maid of honor, you're last before the bride. Rachel squeezed my hand. I'm so happy for you, she whispered, and I wondered if she actually believed it, if she'd convinced herself that this was okay, that she hadn't done anything wrong. Thank you, I whispered back. For everything. She smiled, relieved, and took her place in line. The bridesmaids filed out one by one, and then it was just me and Dad and Jenna, who was giving me a concerned look that I ignored. Last chance to run, Jenna said, trying to make it sound like a joke but not quite succeeding. I'm not running, I said. I'm exactly where I need to be. The music changed. The wedding march, traditional and soaring. Dad offered me his arm, and I took it, feeling the rough fabric of his suit jacket under my fingers. We stepped into the doorway, and everyone stood, turning to look at me. A collective intake of breath, the rustle of fabric, the click of phone cameras. I saw faces I'd known my whole life, faces I'd met through Marcus, all of them smiling, some crying, all of them believing they were watching something beautiful. And then I saw Marcus, standing at the altar in his black tux, his hair perfectly styled, his face lit up with what looked like genuine joy. He was a good actor. I'd give him that. If I hadn't known the truth, I would have believed that expression, would have thought he was the luckiest man in the world. Rachel stood beside the altar in her blue dress, holding her bouquet with white-knuckled hands. She wasn't looking at me. She was looking at Marcus, and the expression on her face was so raw, so full of longing and pain, that for a second I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Dad walked me down the aisle, his steps measured and slow. The barn smelled like flowers and wood polish and the faint mustiness of old hay. The string lights twinkled overhead, casting everything in a soft, romantic glow. It should have been magical. It should have been everything I'd dreamed of. We reached the altar. Dad lifted my veil, kissed my cheek, and his lips were cold. "I'm sorry," he whispered, so quietly I almost didn't hear it. Then he placed my hand in Marcus's and stepped back, and I was alone with the man I thought I'd spend my life with. Marcus's hand was warm, his grip firm. He was smiling down at me, his blue eyes crinkling at the corners the way they always did. "You're beautiful," he mouthed, and I saw Rachel flinch out of the corner of my eye. The officiant began to speak, his voice deep and sonorous, filling the barn with words about love and commitment and forever. I barely heard him. I was too busy watching Marcus, studying his face, looking for cracks in the facade. He seemed calm, confident, like a man who'd gotten away with something and knew it. "Marriage is a sacred bond," the officiant intoned. "Built on trust, honesty, and mutual respect. It is not to be entered into lightly, but with full knowledge of the commitment being made. Trust. Honesty." The words were almost funny. If anyone here knows of any reason why these two should not be wed, speak now or forever hold your peace. The traditional pause. No one ever actually spoke during this part. It was just a formality, a relic from older times. The officiant waited the customary few seconds, already moving on to the next part of the ceremony. "I do," I said. The barn went silent. Not the comfortable silence of anticipation, but the shocked, breathless silence of disbelief. Marcus's smile froze. Rachel made a small, choked sound. The officiant blinked at me, confused. "I'm sorry," he said. I said I do. "I know a reason why we shouldn't be married." I turned to face the crowd, still holding Marcus's hand, feeling him try to pull away but gripping tighter. "I know several reasons, actually." "Sweetheart," Marcus said, his voice low and urgent. "What are you doing?" "I'm telling the truth. Isn't that what marriage is supposed to be built on? Honesty?" I looked at him, saw the panic starting to show through the cracks. "You believe in honesty, don't you, Marcus?" "Maybe we should take this somewhere private," the officiant suggested, looking desperately uncomfortable. "No. I think everyone here deserves to know. They got dressed up, they brought gifts, they came to celebrate our love. The least we can do is be honest with them." I raised my voice, making sure it carried to the back row. "My fiancée has been having an affair with my sister for the past 6 months." The silence shattered. Gasps, exclamations, the scrape of chairs as people half stood and then sat back down, not sure what to do. I saw Aunt Linda's mouth fall open. Saw Marcus's mother press her hand to her chest. Saw my grandmother lean forward, cupping her ear, asking someone to repeat what I'd said. "That's not true," Marcus said, but his voice was weak, unconvincing. "She's just nervous. Wedding jitters. It is true." I turned to Rachel, who had gone white as her bouquet. "Isn't it, Rachel? Want to tell everyone how it started? Or should I?" She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No sound came out. Tears were streaming down her face, ruining her carefully applied makeup. "No?" I continued. "Okay, I'll tell them. It started 6 months ago, at Marcus's birthday party. Remember that, Marcus? You said you were going out for more ice. Rachel said she needed to take a phone call. You were both gone for 45 minutes. I thought it was weird, but I trusted you. I trusted both of you. Please, Rachel whispered. Please don't do this. Why not? You did it. You slept with my fiancé. Multiple times. In his apartment, in your car, probably in a dozen other places I don't even want to know about. And you know the best part? I looked back at the crowd, at my parents who were sitting frozen in the front row. My parents knew. They found out weeks ago and decided not to tell me because they didn't want to ruin the wedding. Because the wedding was more important than the truth. Because their reputation was more important than their daughter's happiness. Mom was crying openly now, her face buried in her hands. Dad just stared at me, his expression unreadable. So here we are, I said, spreading my arms wide, my bouquet dangling from one hand. The perfect wedding. The perfect family. All built on lies and betrayal and cowardice. Everyone smiled for the photographer. Marcus grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. You're making a scene. You're embarrassing yourself. I'm embarrassing myself? I laughed, and it sounded wild even to my own ears. I'm not the one who cheated. I'm not the one who lied. I'm just the one who's finally telling the truth. We need to talk about this privately, he hissed. You're being irrational. No. I'm being honest. For the first time in months, everyone in this room is hearing the truth. I yanked my arm free, stumbling back a step. Jenna was suddenly there, steadying me, her face fierce and protective. You want to talk? Fine. Let's talk. Tell everyone how you told me you loved me while you were sleeping with my sister. Tell them how you helped me plan this wedding, picked out flowers and cake flavors and wrote vows about forever, all while betraying me. Tell them how you're not even sorry, how you're just sorry you got caught. I am sorry, he said, and maybe he even meant it. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. It meant something to me. My voice cracked, the anger giving way to the hurt underneath. It meant everything to me. You were everything to me. And you threw it away for what? For her? Rachel made a sound like a wounded animal. It wasn't like that. We didn't mean for it to happen. We tried to stop, we tried to stay away from each other, but what? You loved him too much? You couldn't help yourself? I turned on her, all the rage I'd been holding back pouring out. He was mine, Rachel. Mine. And you took him anyway because that's what you do. You take things. You've been doing it our whole lives. My clothes, my friends, my opportunities. But this was too far. I know, she sobbed. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did it anyway. You hurt me anyway. And you were going to stand up here and watch me marry him and say nothing. You were going to give a speech about how much you love me, about sisterhood and family, and it would have all been lies. The crowd was in chaos now. People were talking over each other, some trying to leave, others craning their necks to see better. Marcus's mother was shouting something about how her son would never do such a thing, how I must be lying, how this was all some kind of misunderstanding. My grandmother was demanding someone explain what was happening in a voice loud enough to rattle the rafters. Dad stood up, his face red. Everyone, please. Let's all just calm down and calm down. I whirled on him. You want me to calm down? You knew about this. You knew and you said nothing. You let me keep planning, keep hoping, keep believing in a future that was never going to happen. What kind of father does that? The kind who didn't want to see his daughter hurt, he said, his voice breaking. We thought we were protecting you. By lying to me? By letting me walk into a marriage with a cheater? That's not protection, Dad. That's betrayal. You betrayed me just as much as they did. Mom stood too, reaching for me. Honey, please. We made a mistake. We should have told you. But we were scared. We didn't know what to do. You should have told me the truth. I was shouting now, all pretense of control gone. That's what you should have done. You should have trusted me to handle it, to make my own decisions about my own life. Instead, you treated me like a child, like someone too weak and stupid to know what's best for herself. We were trying to spare you the pain, Mom said, tears streaming down her face. We thought maybe it would blow over, maybe they'd end it and you'd never have to know. Well, I know now. Everyone knows now. And you know what? I'm glad. I'm glad I found out before I married him. I'm glad I didn't waste years of my life with someone who doesn't respect me, who doesn't value me enough to be faithful. I'm glad I didn't tie myself to a family that thinks lying is the same as love. I pulled off my engagement ring, the diamond catching the light, sending little rainbows across the floor. It had been Marcus's grandmother's ring, a family heirloom he'd presented to me on one knee in front of the fountain at the park where we'd had our first date. I'd cried when he proposed, had thought it was the happiest moment of my life. I threw it at him. It bounced off his chest and clattered to the floor, rolling under a chair. Keep it. Give it to Rachel. I'm sure she'd love to wear it. I don't want it, Rachel said, her voice small and broken. I don't want any of this. I wish it had never happened. But it did happen. And now we all have to live with it. I looked around at the crowd, at all the shocked faces and whispered conversations. I'm sorry you all came here for nothing. I'm sorry you wasted your time and your gifts and your good wishes on something that was rotten from the start. But at least now you know the truth. At least now there are no more secrets. I turned to leave, my dress trailing behind me, and Jenna was right there, her arm around my waist, supporting me. We made it 3 steps before Marcus called out. Wait. Please. Can we just talk? Just the two of us? I stopped but didn't turn around. What's left to say? I love you. I know I screwed up, I know I hurt you, but I do love you. We can work through this. We can go to counseling, we can start over. Please don't throw away everything we have because of one mistake. One mistake? I did turn then, and I saw him clearly for the first time. Not the man I'd fallen in love with, not the man I thought he was, but the man he actually was. Weak. Selfish. A liar who was only sorry because he'd been caught. It wasn't one mistake, Marcus. It was hundreds of mistakes. Every time you touched her. Every time you lied to me. Every time you looked me in the eye and told me you loved me while you were betraying me. Those weren't mistakes. Those were choices. And you made them over and over again. People make bad choices. That doesn't mean they can't change. Maybe. But I don't want to wait around to find out. I don't want to spend the rest of my life wondering if you're really working late or if you're with someone else. I don't want to look at my sister and see the woman who slept with my husband. I don't want any of this. So that's it? You're just giving up? No. I'm choosing myself. For the first time in this whole mess, I'm choosing what's best for me. And what's best for me is to walk away from all of you. I meant it. In that moment, standing in my wedding dress in front of everyone I'd ever known, I meant every word. I was done with Marcus, done with Rachel, done with parents who valued appearances over honesty. I was done being the good daughter, the understanding sister, the forgiving girlfriend. I was done making myself smaller so other people could feel bigger. Jenna and I walked out of the barn into the bright September afternoon. The sun was warm on my face, the air smelled like cut grass and distant rain, and I felt lighter than I had in months. Behind us, I could hear the chaos continuing, voices raised in argument and explanation and accusation. Let them fight. Let them try to make sense of the wreckage. I was done cleaning up other people's messes. That was the most badass thing I've ever seen, Jenna said as we reached the parking lot. I'm so proud of you. I feel like I'm going to throw up, I admitted. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving me shaky and cold despite the warm day. That's normal. You just blew up your entire life in front of 100 people. But you did the right thing. You know that, right? Did I? In that moment, I wasn't sure. I felt powerful and terrified in equal measure, exhilarated and devastated. I'd burned every bridge, salted the earth, made sure there was no going back. And part of me, the part that had been raised to be nice and accommodating and forgiving, wondered if I'd gone too far. But then I remembered Marcus's hand on my knee at dinner, his thumb drawing circles while he lied to my face. I remembered Rachel's cold fingers and fake smile. I remembered my parents arguing in the dark about whether to tell me, choosing their comfort over my right to know. And I knew I'd done exactly what I needed to do. Yeah, I said. I know. We went back to Jenna's apartment, a small one-bedroom in a complex on the other side of town. She helped me out of my dress, carefully hanging it in her closet like it was something precious instead of a symbol of the worst day of my life. I borrowed sweatpants and a t-shirt that smelled like her laundry detergent, something fresh and clean that made me want to cry for reasons I couldn't explain. I sat on her couch, wrapped in a blanket despite the warm day, and stared at nothing. My phone was ringing constantly, buzzing and chiming with calls and texts I didn't want to answer. Mom, Dad, Rachel, Marcus, numbers I didn't recognize, probably relatives and friends who'd been at the wedding and wanted to know what the hell had just happened. Jenna finally took the phone from me and turned it off, setting it on the kitchen counter where I couldn't see it. You need to eat something, she said, rummaging through her cabinets. When's the last time you ate? I couldn't remember. Yesterday? The day before? Time felt strange and slippery, like I was moving through water. She made me soup, the canned kind that tastes like childhood and sick days, and I managed a few spoonfuls before my stomach rebelled. The warmth felt good though, the mug solid and real in my hands, something to hold on to while everything else fell apart. Do you want to talk about it? Jenna asked, sitting beside me. Not really. Okay. Do you want to watch terrible TV and pretend today didn't happen? Yes, please. We spent the rest of the afternoon watching reality shows about people with problems that seemed trivial compared to mine. Jenna kept up a running commentary, making jokes and sarcastic observations, and I was grateful for the noise, for the distraction, for her presence. She didn't try to make me feel better or tell me everything would be okay. She just sat with me in the wreckage and let me be broken. As the sun set, painting Jenna's living room in shades of orange and pink, there was a knock at the door. We both froze. Jenna looked at me, eyebrows raised in question. I shook my head. I didn't want to see anyone, didn't want to talk to anyone, didn't want to face the consequences of what I'd done. The knock came again, more insistent. I know you're in there, a voice called. Rachel's voice. Please. I just want to talk. Go away, Jenna shouted. She doesn't want to see you. I'm not leaving until she talks to me. I'll stay out here all night if I have to. I believed her. Rachel had always been stubborn, had always gotten what she wanted through sheer persistence. I could ignore her, could let her stand out there making a scene, or I could face her and get it over with. Let her in, I said quietly. Are you sure? Because I'm happy to call the cops and have her removed. I'm sure. Might as well hear what she has to say. Jenna opened the door, and Rachel stumbled in like she'd been leaning against it. She changed out of her bridesmaid dress into jeans and a sweater, but her makeup was still smeared from crying, her eyes red and swollen. She looked terrible. Good. Thank you, she said to me, her voice hoarse. Thank you for seeing me. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it so you'll leave me alone. I pulled the blanket tighter around myself. Say what you came to say. Rachel sat in the chair across from me, perched on the edge like she might need to run at any moment. I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, I know it doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen. You made it happen. You and Marcus. I know. And I hate myself for it. I've hated myself since the first time, but I couldn't stop. I tried, I swear I tried, but what? You loved him? You couldn't resist? I laughed, bitter and sharp. Don't give me that. You could have stopped. You could have told me. You could have done 100 different things, but you chose to keep lying, to keep sneaking around, to keep betraying me. You're right. I did choose that. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life. She was crying again, tears dripping off her chin onto her lap. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even want you to forgive me. I just want you to understand. Understand what? That you're selfish? That you don't care who you hurt as long as you get what you want? I already knew that, Rachel. I've known it our whole lives. She flinched like I'd slapped her. That's not fair. None of this is fair. You sleeping with my fiancé isn't fair. Mom and Dad lying to me isn't fair. Me having to blow up my own wedding just to get someone to tell me the truth isn't fair. I was shouting now, all the hurt and anger pouring out. You don't get to come here and ask me to understand. You don't get to make yourself feel better by apologizing. You did this. You destroyed our relationship, our family, everything. And you did it knowing exactly what you were doing. I know, she whispered. I know, and I'm sorry. Stop saying that. Stop saying you're sorry like it means something. If you were really sorry, you would have stopped. You would have told me. You would have done literally anything except what you did. I was scared. I was scared of losing you, of losing the family, of everyone knowing what I'd done. So you let me almost marry him instead? You let me stand up there in front of everyone and make a fool of myself? That's not being scared, Rachel. That's being a coward. She nodded, accepting it. You're right. I am a coward. I've always been a coward. I've always taken the easy way, the selfish way. And I've always known you'd forgive me eventually because that's what you do. You're the good sister, the understanding one, the one who puts everyone else first. I counted on that. I counted on you loving me enough to let it go. Well, I don't. I don't love you enough to let this go. I don't love you at all right now. When I look at you, all I see is someone who betrayed me in the worst possible way. Someone who smiled to my face while stabbing me in the back. Someone I can't trust, can't forgive, can't even stand to be in the same room with. Rachel stood up, swaying slightly. Okay. I understand. I'll go. But before I do, I need to tell you something. Something you deserve to know. What? What else could you possibly have to tell me? She took a deep breath, her hands twisting together. It wasn't just an affair. Marcus and I, we were planning to be together. After the wedding. He was going to stay married to you for a year, maybe two, long enough that the divorce wouldn't seem suspicious. And then he was going to leave you for me. We had it all planned out. The room tilted. I gripped the edge of the couch, my knuckles white. What? He never loved you. Not really. He loved the idea of you, the stability, the respectability. But he loved me. He told me so. He said you were safe and boring and that I was exciting. He said being with you was like being in a cage, but being with me made him feel alive. Each word was a knife, sharp and precise, cutting deeper than anything else she'd said. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to know the truth. All of it. You need to know that walking away today was the best thing you could have done. You saved yourself from years of lies and pain. And I need you to know that I'm not the only villain here. Marcus is just as guilty, maybe more. He used both of us. He played us against each other. And I was too stupid and selfish to see it until it was too late. Get out, I said, my voice shaking. Get out right now. I'm going. But I want you to know that I do love you. I've always loved you. And I'm sorry I was such a terrible sister. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to be the person you deserved. She left, closing the door softly behind her. The silence she left behind was deafening. I sat there, frozen, trying to process what she'd just told me. Marcus had never loved me. The whole relationship had been a lie. He'd been planning to use me, to stay married just long enough to avoid suspicion, and then leave me for my sister. Everything I'd believed, everything I'd built my future on, had been nothing but manipulation and deceit. That lying piece of garbage, Jenna said, her voice tight with fury. I'm going to kill him. I'm going to actually kill him. Get in line, I said, and then I started laughing. It was hysterical laughter, the kind that borders on crying, the kind that comes when everything is so terrible that the only response is to lose it completely. Jenna joined in, and we sat there laughing until we were both gasping for air, tears streaming down our faces. This is insane, I managed to say between gasps. This whole thing is completely insane. It really is. Your life is like a soap opera. A really messed up soap opera. At least I found out now. At least I didn't marry him. Silver lining, Jenna agreed. Although the bar for silver linings is pretty low right now. We ordered pizza, the greasy kind from the place down the street that definitely didn't pass health inspections but tasted amazing. I ate 3 slices, suddenly ravenous, and drank the beer Jenna offered even though I usually didn't drink. It tasted bitter and cold and perfect. My phone, still turned off on the counter, seemed to pulse with all the messages I wasn't reading. I knew I'd have to deal with them eventually, would have to face my parents and figure out what came next. But not tonight. Tonight, I was going to sit in my best friend's apartment and eat pizza and drink beer and pretend that tomorrow didn't exist. What are you going to do? Jenna asked as we settled back on the couch, the TV playing something mindless in the background. I don't know. Move, maybe. Start over somewhere new where no one knows me or what happened. You could. Or you could stay and show everyone that you're not the one who should be ashamed. They are. I'm not ashamed. I'm angry. And hurt. And so tired I can barely think straight. That's fair. You're allowed to feel all of that. You're allowed to fall apart if you need to. I don't want to fall apart. I want to be strong. I want to prove that I don't need any of them, that I can be fine on my own. You can be both. You can be strong and still admit that this hurts like hell. She was right. It did hurt. It hurt more than anything I'd ever experienced, a deep, aching pain that seemed to radiate from my chest to every part of my body. I'd lost my fiancée, my sister, my parents' trust, all in one day. I'd lost the future I'd been planning, the life I'd been building. I'd lost my sense of safety, of home, of belonging. But I'd also gained something. I'd gained the truth. I'd gained my self-respect. I'd gained the knowledge that I was strong enough to walk away from people who didn't value me, even when it hurt, even when it meant standing alone. I'm going to be okay, I said, and I almost believed it. Eventually. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but someday. I'm going to be okay. You are, Jenna said firmly. You're going to be more than okay. You're going to be amazing. And anyone who can't see that doesn't deserve you. We fell asleep on the couch, the TV still playing, empty pizza boxes on the coffee table. I dreamed of weddings that never happened in families that didn't exist and futures that had turned to smoke. But when I woke up in the morning, sunlight streaming through Jenna's windows, I felt something I hadn't expected. Hope. Small and fragile, but there. The next few days were a blur. I finally turned on my phone and was immediately bombarded with messages. Mom and Dad begging me to come home so we could talk. Rachel sending long, rambling apologies that I deleted without reading. Marcus calling over and over, leaving voicemails that ranged from apologetic to angry to desperate. Friends and relatives asking if I was okay, if the rumors were true, if there was anything they could do. I responded to a few. Told my parents I needed space and time. Told my friends I appreciated their concern but wanted to be left alone. Blocked Marcus's number after listening to one voicemail where he had the audacity to say I'd overreacted, that I'd humiliated him in front of everyone, that I owed him an apology. An apology. He wanted an apology from me. I stayed with Jenna for a week, sleeping on her couch and trying to figure out what came next. I'd been living with Marcus for the past year, and all my stuff was still at his apartment. The thought of going back there, of seeing him, of packing up the life we'd built together, made me feel sick. But I couldn't avoid it forever. Jenna offered to come with me, but I said no. This was something I needed to do alone. I needed to face him one last time, needed to look him in the eye and show him that he hadn't broken me, that I was still standing. I went on a Thursday afternoon, when I knew he'd be at work. I still had my key, though using it felt wrong, like I was trespassing in a place that used to be home. The apartment smelled the same, like his cologne and the vanilla candles I liked to burn. It looked the same too, our furniture and decorations and the photos on the walls of us smiling and happy and in love. Except we'd never been in love. Not really. He'd been using me, and I'd been too blind to see it. I packed quickly, throwing clothes and books and personal items into boxes I'd brought. I didn't take anything we'd bought together, didn't want any reminders of what I thought we had. I was almost done, taping up the last box, when I heard the door open. Marcus stood in the doorway, his tie loosened and his hair messed up like he'd been running his hands through it. He looked tired, older somehow, like the past week had aged him. "I knew you'd come," he said. "I've been waiting. I'm just getting my stuff. I'll be gone in 5 minutes." "Wait. Please. Can we talk?" "We have nothing to talk about." "Yes, we do. We have everything to talk about." He stepped into the apartment, closing the door behind him. "I messed up. I know I did. But we can fix this. We can go to therapy, we can work through it. I love you." "No, you don't. You never did. Rachel told me everything. About your plan to stay married for a year and then leave me. About how you thought I was boring and safe. About how you used me." He had the grace to look ashamed. "She shouldn't have told you that." "Why?" "Because it's true? Because it makes you look even worse than you already did? Because it's more complicated than that." Yes, I said those things. But I was confused. I was caught between two people I cared about, and I didn't know what I wanted. "You cared about me so much that you cheated on me for 6 months and planned to divorce me." "That's not caring, Marcus. That's cruelty. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did. You hurt me more than anyone ever has. And the worst part is that you don't even really understand why. You think this is about the cheating, about the sex. But it's not. It's about the lying. It's about the fact that you looked me in the eye every single day and lied to me. You let me plan a wedding, let me dream about our future, let me believe that you loved me, all while knowing it was fake. It wasn't all fake. Some of it was real. The good times, the laughter, the connection we had. That was real. Was it? Or was that just you being a good actor? Because I don't know anymore. I don't know what was real and what was performance. And I don't want to spend the rest of my life trying to figure it out. He moved closer, reaching for me, but I stepped back. Don't touch me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. If I could take it back, I would. If I could do it all over, I'd choose you. I'd choose us. But you can't take it back. And even if you could, I wouldn't want you to. Because this, as horrible as it is, showed me who you really are. And who I really am. I'm someone who deserves better than a man who would betray me with my own sister. I'm someone who deserves honesty and respect and real love. And you can't give me any of those things. I can change. I can be better. Maybe. But not for me. Not anymore. I picked up the last box, balancing it on my hip. I'm done, Marcus. We're done. And this time, it's really over. What about all the wedding stuff? The deposits, the gifts, did you keep it? Donate it. Burn it. I don't care. I just want to move on. I walked past him, out the door, down the stairs to where Jenna was waiting in her car. I loaded the boxes into the trunk, and we drove away, and I didn't look back. Not once. Over the next few weeks, I started to rebuild. I found a small studio apartment on the other side of town, nothing fancy but mine. I went back to work, and during the pitying looks and whispered conversations, holding my head high and refusing to act ashamed, I started therapy, talking through the betrayal and the hurt with a kind woman who didn't judge or try to rush me through the healing process. I didn't talk to my parents. They called and texted and even showed up at my apartment once, but I didn't answer. I wasn't ready to forgive them, wasn't sure I ever would be. They'd chosen to protect themselves instead of me, and that was a betrayal that cut almost as deep as Marcus and Rachel's. Rachel tried to reach out too, but I blocked her number after the third attempt. I didn't want her apologies or explanations. I didn't want anything from her. As far as I was concerned, I didn't have a sister anymore. It was hard. Some days were harder than others. There were mornings when I woke up and forgot, just for a second, that my life had imploded. And then I'd remember, and the weight of it would crash down on me all over again. There were nights when I cried myself to sleep, mourning not just the relationship but the person I'd been, the naive girl who believed in happy endings and true love. But there were good days too. Days when I laughed with Jenna over coffee. Days when I accomplished something at work and felt proud. Days when I looked in the mirror and saw someone stronger, someone who'd survived the worst and was still standing. 3 months after the wedding that never was, I was at the grocery store, debating between 2 types of pasta sauce, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. I always thought you were more of a marinara person than an Alfredo person. I turned to find Marcus standing there, a basket in his hand, looking uncertain. He'd lost weight, I noticed. His face was thinner, his eyes shadowed. "What are you doing here?" I asked, my heart racing. "Shopping. Same as you. I live a few blocks away now. Moved out of the old place. Too many memories." "Right." I turned back to the pasta sauce, grabbing the marinara just to have something to do with my hands. "You look good," he said. "Happy." "I am. Getting there, anyway." "That's good. That's really good." He shifted his weight, uncomfortable. "I've been wanting to talk to you. To really talk, not just apologize. Can we get coffee or something?" "I don't think that's a good idea." "Please. Just 30 minutes. There are things I need to say, things you deserve to hear." I should have said no. Should have walked away and never looked back. But there was something in his voice, something genuine and broken, that made me pause. "Fine. 30 minutes. There's a coffee shop on the corner." We sat across from each other in a booth by the window, the afternoon sun casting long shadows across the table. My coffee was too hot, burning my tongue when I took a sip, but I welcomed the distraction. "Thank you for agreeing to this," Marcus said. "I know you didn't have to. You have 30 minutes. Start talking." He took a deep breath. "I've been in therapy. Trying to figure out why I did what I did, why I sabotaged the best thing in my life. And I've learned a lot about myself. None of it good. I'm not here to make you feel better about your revelations. I know. I'm not asking you to. I'm just trying to explain. He wrapped his hands around his coffee mug, staring into it like it held answers. I grew up in a house where love was conditional. Where I had to perform, had to be perfect, to get any attention or affection. And I carried that into my adult relationships. I didn't know how to just be loved. I didn't trust it. So I sabotaged it. By sleeping with my sister. By sleeping with your sister, he agreed. By creating drama and chaos because that felt familiar. Because deep down, I didn't think I deserved you. You were too good, too kind, too stable. And I was waiting for you to figure out that I wasn't worth it. So I made sure you'd figure it out by doing the worst thing I could think of. That's a nice theory. Very psychological. But it doesn't change what you did. I know. Nothing changes what I did. But I want you to know that it was never about you not being enough. You were always enough. More than enough. It was me. I was the broken one. I could have told you that, I said, but there was no heat in it. Just exhaustion. Rachel and I are together, by the way. In case you were wondering. We tried, after everything fell apart. Thought maybe if we destroyed everything for each other, we should at least try to make it work. But it turned out we didn't actually like each other very much. We just liked the thrill of doing something forbidden. I wasn't wondering. I don't care what you and Rachel do. Fair enough. He finally looked up, meeting my eyes. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for another chance. I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. And that you were right to walk away. You deserved so much better than what I gave you. I know I did. I hope you find it. Someone who sees how amazing you are and doesn't screw it up. Someone who deserves you. I hope so too. I stood up, leaving my half-finished coffee on the table. Goodbye, Marcus. Goodbye. I walked out of the coffee shop and into the bright afternoon, and I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness, exactly. But maybe the beginning of letting go. Marcus was right about one thing. I did deserve better. And now that I knew that, really knew it deep in my bones, I could start building a life that reflected it. 6 months after the wedding, I finally agreed to meet my parents. We met at a neutral location, a park bench by the lake where we used to feed ducks when I was little. Mom brought a thermos of hot chocolate, my favorite, and Dad brought apologies that felt more genuine than anything he'd said before. We were wrong, he said simply. We were cowards, and we were wrong. We should have told you the truth the moment we found out. We should have trusted you to handle it. Instead, we made it worse. And we're sorry. We're so sorry, Mom echoed, her eyes already red from crying. We thought we were protecting you, but we were really just protecting ourselves. We didn't want to deal with the fallout, didn't want to face what it would mean for the family. And that was selfish and cruel. I'd prepared a speech, had practiced all the things I wanted to say about betrayal and trust and how they'd failed me. But sitting there, looking at their faces, seeing how much they'd aged in the past 6 months, I found I didn't need to say most of it. You really hurt me, I said instead. Not just by lying, but by treating me like I couldn't handle the truth. Like I was too fragile or too stupid to make my own decisions. We know, Dad said. and we'll regret it for the rest of our lives. I don't know if I can forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. We understand, Mom said. We don't expect forgiveness. We just want you to know that we love you. We've always loved you. And we're here, whenever you're ready. If you're ever ready. We sat in silence for a while, watching the ducks glide across the water, listening to the sound of children playing in the distance. It wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't hostile either. It was just sad, the kind of sadness that comes from knowing something's been broken and might never be fully repaired. I need time, I said finally. I need space to figure out who I am without all of you. Without the family dynamics and the history and the expectations. I need to be just me for a while. Take all the time you need, Dad said. We'll be here. I left them there on the bench and walked back to my car, and I felt lighter. Not healed, but lighter. Like I'd set down a burden I'd been carrying for too long. As for Rachel, I didn't see her or speak to her for almost a year. And then, on a random Tuesday evening, she showed up at my apartment. I almost didn't let her in. My hand hovered over the doorknob, my heart pounding, every instinct telling me to send her away. But something made me open the door, made me step aside and let her enter. She looked different. Her hair was shorter, her clothes more subdued. She'd lost the polished, perfect veneer she'd always worn, and what was left looked more real, more human. I'm not here to apologize again, she said, standing awkwardly in my tiny living room. I know you don't want to hear it. I'm here because I'm moving. To Seattle. I got a job offer, and I'm taking it. And I wanted to say goodbye. Okay. Goodbye. I also wanted to give you this. She held out an envelope, thick and cream-colored. It's a letter. Everything I should have said a year ago, everything I've learned about myself and why I did what I did. You don't have to read it. You can throw it away if you want. But I needed to write it. I needed to try to explain, even if you never forgive me. I took the envelope, feeling the weight of it. Are you running away? Maybe. Probably. But also trying to start over. Trying to become someone better than the person who hurt you. I don't know if that's possible, but I have to try. Good luck with that. Thank you. She moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I really am sorry. Not just for what I did, but for who I was. For all the years of taking things from you, of being selfish and thoughtless. You deserved a better sister. You deserved better than all of us. Yeah. I did. She left, and I stood there holding the envelope, debating whether to open it or throw it away. In the end, I set it on my bookshelf, unopened. Maybe someday I'd read it. Maybe someday I'd be ready to hear what she had to say. But not today. Life moved on. I got a promotion at work, started dating again, made new friends who didn't know about the wedding or the betrayal or any of it. I was just me, not the girl whose fiancé cheated with her sister, not the daughter who'd cut off her parents, not the victim of a dramatic public humiliation. Just me. I started having coffee with my parents once a month, slowly rebuilding something that looked like a relationship. It wasn't what it had been before, probably never would be, but it was something. We talked about safe topics, work and weather and books we'd read. We didn't talk about Rachel or Marcus or the wedding. Those were wounds still too fresh to touch. 2 years after the wedding that never was, I met someone. His name was David, and he was nothing like Marcus. He was quiet where Marcus had been loud, steady where Marcus had been unpredictable, honest to a fault where Marcus had been a liar. He knew about my past. I told him early on because I didn't want any secrets between us, and he'd listened without judgment. That must have been incredibly hard, he'd said. But it also must have made you incredibly strong. I don't know about strong. Some days I still feel broken. Broken things can be put back together. Sometimes they're even more beautiful for having been broken. It was cheesy, the kind of thing that should have made me roll my eyes. But coming from him, it felt genuine. And slowly, carefully, I let myself fall in love again. Not the wild, reckless love I'd felt for Marcus, but something deeper, more solid. Something built on trust and honesty and mutual respect. When David proposed, 3 years after we met, he did it quietly, just the two of us on a hiking trail overlooking the ocean. No grand gestures, no audience, no pressure. Just him and me and a simple question. Will you marry me? Not because it's what we're supposed to do, not because of tradition or expectations, but because I love you and I want to spend my life with you. Because you make me better, and I hope I make you better too. Because I can't imagine my future without you in it. I said yes. And this time, I meant it with my whole heart. We got married 6 months later in a small ceremony at the courthouse, just us and Jenna and David's brother as witnesses. No white dress, no flowers, no reception. Just vows and rings and the promise to be honest with each other, always, no matter how hard the truth might be. My parents weren't there. I'd told them about the wedding, had even considered inviting them, but in the end decided against it. This was my fresh start, my new beginning, and I wanted it to be untainted by the past. They understood, or said they did, and sent a card with their congratulations and a check I didn't cash. Rachel sent a card too, from Seattle. It was simple, just a few lines about how happy she was for me and how she hoped I'd found the love I deserved. I didn't respond, but I didn't throw it away either. I kept it in a drawer, along with the unopened letter she'd given me, artifacts of a relationship that had died but still somehow mattered. Life with David was everything life with Marcus hadn't been. It was peaceful, stable, honest. We fought sometimes, but we fought fair, no lies or manipulation or hidden agendas. We built a life together, a real one, based on who we actually were instead of who we pretended to be. And slowly, year by year, the pain of what had happened faded. Not gone, never completely gone, but distant enough that I could look back on it without feeling like I was drowning. I could see it for what it was, a terrible thing that had happened to me but didn't define me. A chapter in my story, but not the whole book. 5 years after the wedding that never was, I was cleaning out a closet when I found the unopened letter from Rachel. It was yellowed at the edges, the envelope soft from being handled and moved and stored away. I sat on the floor, holding it, debating one more time whether to read it. David found me there, the letter in my hands, tears on my cheeks. "You okay?" he asked, sitting beside me. "I don't know. I found this. From Rachel. She gave it to me years ago, and I never opened it. Do you want to open it now?" "I don't know. Part of me wants to know what she said. Part of me thinks it doesn't matter anymore. It matters if it matters to you. There's no right answer here." I turned the envelope over in my hands, feeling the weight of all the words inside, all the explanations and apologies and justifications. And I realized something. I didn't need to read it. Whatever Rachel had written, whatever she'd wanted me to know, it didn't change anything. It didn't change what had happened or how I'd healed or who I'd become. I'd spent so much time being angry, being hurt, being defined by what they'd done to me. But I wasn't that person anymore. I was someone who'd survived, who'd rebuilt, who'd found real love and real happiness. And that was enough. I don't need to read it, I said, setting the letter aside. I don't need her explanations or her apologies. I'm okay without them. You sure? Yeah. I'm sure. I leaned against him, feeling his solid warmth, his steady presence. I'm more than okay. I'm happy. Really, genuinely happy. And that's the best revenge, isn't it? Being happy without them. It's not revenge. It's healing. Maybe it's both. We threw the letter away, along with a bunch of other stuff from my past that I didn't need anymore. Old photos, old clothes, old memories that had been taking up space in my closet and my heart. It felt good, cathartic, like I was making room for new things, better things. That night, lying in bed next to David, listening to his steady breathing, I thought about the girl I'd been 5 years ago. The one who'd stood in her childhood kitchen, breathing in burnt coffee and cinnamon rolls, thinking everything was safe and familiar and home. The one who believed in fairy tales and happy endings and the goodness of the people she loved. She'd been naive, that girl. Trusting to a fault. But she'd also been brave, even if she hadn't known it yet. Brave enough to face the truth when it was revealed. Brave enough to walk away from people who didn't value her. Brave enough to blow up her own wedding rather than live a lie. I wasn't that girl anymore. I'd been broken and rebuilt, and the person I'd become was stronger, wiser, more careful with her trust. But I'd also kept the best parts of her, the kindness and the hope and the belief that love, real love, was possible. And I'd found it. Not where I'd expected, not with who I'd expected, but I'd found it. And that made everything I'd been through worth it. 7 years after the wedding that never was, I got a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Hi. It's Rachel. My breath caught. 7 years of silence, and now her voice in my ear, older and more tentative than I remembered. How did you get this number? Mom gave it to me. I asked her not to tell you I was calling. I wasn't sure you'd answer if you knew it was me. I probably wouldn't have. I sat down on my couch, my heart racing. What do you want, Rachel? I'm getting married. In 2 months. And I know I have no right to ask this, I know I don't deserve it, but I wanted to invite you. Not because I expect you to come, but because it felt wrong not to ask. You're my sister. You'll always be my sister, even if you hate me. I don't hate you. The words surprised me, but they were true. Somewhere along the way, the hate had faded, replaced by something more complicated. Not forgiveness, exactly, but not hate either. I don't hate you, Rachel. I just don't know you anymore. I know. And that's my fault. I'm the one who destroyed our relationship. I'm the one who chose a man over my sister. And I've regretted it every single day for the past 7 years. Is it the same man? Marcus? God, no. We lasted about 3 months after everything fell apart. Turns out we didn't actually like each other very much when we weren't sneaking around. She laughed, bitter and sad. His name is Tom. He's a teacher. He's kind and patient and nothing like Marcus. And he knows everything about what I did, about who I was. And he loves me anyway. Or he says he does. That's good. I'm glad you found someone. Are you? Really? I thought about it, searching my feelings for any trace of bitterness or jealousy. But all I felt was a distant sort of gladness, like hearing good news about someone I used to know. Yeah. I really am. Everyone deserves a second chance. Even you. She was quiet for a long moment. I heard you got married. Mom told me. She said you seemed really happy. I am. David's amazing. He's everything I didn't know I needed. I'm glad. You deserve that. You always deserved that. Her voice cracked. I'm so sorry. I know I've said it before, I know it doesn't change anything, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. Not just for what I did, but for all the years before that. For being a terrible sister. For taking you for granted. For not appreciating you until it was too late. I know you are. And I appreciate you saying it. But Rachel, I need you to understand something. I've moved on. I've built a life that doesn't include you, and I'm happy with that life. I don't need closure or reconciliation or a relationship with you. I'm okay with us being strangers who used to be sisters. I understand. I do. But the invitation stands. If you change your mind, if you want to come, you'd be welcome. No pressure, no expectations. Just an open door. I'll think about it. That's all I can ask. Thank you for taking my call. And thank you for not hanging up on me. You're welcome. And Rachel, good luck. I hope your wedding is everything you want it to be. Thank you. That means more than you know. We hung up, and I sat there for a long time, staring at my phone. David came home from work and found me like that, lost in thought. Everything okay? He asked, kissing the top of my head. Rachel called. She's getting married. She invited me to the wedding. Wow. How do you feel about that? I don't know. Confused, mostly. Part of me wants to go, to show her that I'm okay, that I've moved on. Part of me never wants to see her again. What does your gut say? I closed my eyes, trying to listen to that small, quiet voice inside that had guided me through the worst time of my life. It says I don't need to go. It says I've already proven everything I need to prove, to her and to myself. It says I'm allowed to keep my boundaries, to protect my peace. Then don't go. Send a card if you want, or don't. But don't do anything that makes you uncomfortable just because you think you should. When did you get so wise? I married you, didn't I? That was pretty wise. I laughed, pulling him down beside me on the couch. Yeah. That was pretty wise. In the end, I didn't go to Rachel's wedding. I sent a card with a generic congratulations message and a gift card to a nice restaurant. It felt like enough, a gesture that acknowledged the invitation without requiring me to reopen old wounds. Mom called after the wedding, telling me it had been beautiful, that Rachel had looked happy, that she'd asked about me. I listened and made appropriate noises, but I didn't feel anything. Not regret, not curiosity, not even the faint sadness I'd expected. Just a pleasant neutrality, like hearing about a stranger's wedding. She misses you, Mom said. She talks about you all the time. about how she wishes she could go back and do things differently. We all wish that sometimes. But we can't. We can only move forward. I know. I just thought you should know that she's changed. She's not the same person she was 7 years ago. Neither am I. And that's okay. We're both different people now, living different lives. And that's how it should be. Mom sighed. I suppose you're right. I just wish things could be different. I wish we could all be a family again. We are a family. Just a different kind of family than we used to be. And that's okay too. It was okay. More than okay. I had David, I had Jenna, I had a small circle of friends who loved and supported me. I had a career I was proud of, a home I'd built, a life that felt authentic and true. I didn't need the family I'd been born into to be complete. I created my own family, chosen family, and that was enough. 10 years after the wedding that never was, I was at a coffee shop, working on my laptop, when someone sat down across from me. I looked up, ready to tell them the seat was taken, and found myself staring at Marcus. He looked older, lines around his eyes and gray threading through his hair. But he was smiling, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "Hi," he said. "I know this is weird, and I can leave if you want me to. But I saw you sitting here, and I thought maybe it was a sign. That maybe we were supposed to talk." "A sign from who? The universe? Fate? I don't know. I've been in AA for 5 years, and one of the steps is making amends. I've been putting off reaching out to you because I was scared. But seeing you here, it feels like maybe I'm supposed to do it now." "You're in AA? I didn't know you had a drinking problem." "I didn't, back then. But after everything fell apart, I started drinking to cope. And then I couldn't stop. It took losing my job and my apartment and almost my life before I got help. But I've been sober for 5 years now, and I'm trying to make things right with the people I hurt." "Good for you. Seriously. That takes a lot of strength. Thank you. And I want to say I'm sorry. For everything. For cheating on you, for lying to you, for planning to use you. For being a coward and a manipulator and a terrible person. You deserved so much better, and I'm sorry I couldn't be that for you." I studied him, this man I'd once loved, once planned to marry. He seemed sincere, humbled by whatever he'd been through. And I felt nothing. No anger, no hurt, no lingering feelings of any kind. He was just a person, someone I used to know, someone who'd hurt me a long time ago. I appreciate the apology. And I forgive you." He blinked, surprised. "You do?" "Yeah. Not because you deserve it, but because I don't want to carry it anymore. I've spent 10 years building a life I love, and holding on to anger about what you did would just weigh me down. So I forgive you. And I hope you found peace. I'm working on it. Therapy, meetings, trying to be a better person. It's hard, but it's worth it." He stood up, offering his hand. "Thank you. For listening, for forgiving me. It means more than you know." I shook his hand, feeling the calluses on his palm, the slight tremor in his fingers. "Take care of yourself, Marcus. You too." He left, and I went back to my work, and it felt like closing a book I'd been reading for too long. The story was over, the characters had moved on, and I was ready for the next chapter. That night, I told David about running into Marcus, about the apology and the forgiveness. He listened quietly, holding my hand across the dinner table. "How do you feel?" he asked when I finished. "Free. Like I just set down something heavy I'd been carrying without even realizing it. I thought I'd moved on, and I had, mostly. But there was still this little piece of me that was angry, that wanted him to suffer the way I had suffered. And now that's gone too. That's beautiful. You're beautiful. I'm lucky. I'm lucky I found you, lucky I had the strength to walk away when I did, lucky I got a second chance at happiness. It's not luck. You made choices. Hard choices. And you built this life through your own strength and courage. Maybe. But I couldn't have done it without you. Without Jenna. Without everyone who supported me and believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. That's what love is. Real love. Not the fairy tale version, but the messy, complicated, show-up everyday version. The version where people see you at your worst and choose to stay anyway. Is that what you did? Chose to stay? Every single day. And I'll keep choosing it, for as long as you'll have me. I got up and moved around the table, sitting in his lap, wrapping my arms around his neck. Forever, then. I'll have you forever. Forever sounds good to me. We sat like that for a long time, wrapped up in each other, in the quiet comfort of a love that had been earned and tested and proven true. And I thought about how far I'd come, from that girl in the yellow kitchen who thought she knew what love was, to this woman who actually did. 15 years after the wedding that never was, my father died. It was sudden, a heart attack that took him before anyone could say goodbye. Mom called me at 3 in the morning, her voice shattered, and I drove to the hospital even though I knew it was too late. Rachel was there, flying in from Seattle where she still lived with her husband and 2 kids. We saw each other across the waiting room, and for a moment, we were just 2 sisters who'd lost their father, all the history and hurt falling away in the face of shared grief. "I'm sorry," she said, and I knew she meant for Dad, not for everything else. Me too. We sat together during the funeral, not talking, just existing in the same space. It wasn't forgiveness, wasn't reconciliation, but it was something. An acknowledgement that we both loved the same man, that we were both mourning the same loss. After the service, after everyone had left and it was just me and Mom and Rachel in the house I'd grown up in, we sat around the kitchen table with the chipped yellow tiles and talked. Really talked, for the first time in 15 years. "I've missed you," Rachel said, her eyes red from crying. "Both of you. I know I don't have the right to miss you, I know I'm the one who destroyed everything, but I have. Every single day. I've missed you too," I admitted. "Not the you that you were, but the sister I thought I had. The relationship I thought we had. We could try again. To have a relationship. It wouldn't be the same, it couldn't be, but maybe it could be something." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw not the girl who'd betrayed me but a woman who'd lived with the consequences of her choices for 15 years. A woman who'd built a life, raised children, tried to be better. And I thought about Dad, about how short life was, about how holding on to anger only hurt me. "Maybe," I said. "We could try. Slowly. No expectations, no pressure. Just see what happens." "I'd like that." Mom reached across the table, taking both our hands. "Your father would have liked that too. He always hoped you two would find your way back to each other." "Did he forgive me?" Rachel asked, her voice small. For what I did. He forgave you the moment it happened. He was angry, disappointed, hurt. But he never stopped loving you. Neither of you. He just didn't know how to fix what was broken. None of us did, I said. But maybe it's not about fixing it. Maybe it's about building something new. Over the next few years, Rachel and I did build something new. Not the close sisterhood we'd had as children, but a careful friendship built on honesty and boundaries and mutual respect. We talked on the phone once a month, met for coffee when she visited, sent cards on birthdays and holidays. It wasn't everything, but it was something. And it was enough. I met her kids, 2 boys who had her eyes and her husband's quiet demeanor. They called me Aunt, and I sent them presents and remembered their birthdays, and it felt good to be part of their lives, even in a small way. Mom and I grew closer too, the distance between us shrinking as we both learned to be honest about our feelings and our mistakes. She apologized more times than I could count, and eventually, I told her she could stop, that I understood, that I forgave her. I don't deserve your forgiveness, she said. Maybe not. But I'm giving it anyway. Not for you, but for me. Because I'm tired of being angry. I'm tired of holding on to hurt. I want to move forward, and I can't do that if I'm always looking back. When did you get so wise? I learned from the best. You taught me to be strong, even if you didn't mean to. You taught me that I could survive anything, even the worst betrayal. And I'm grateful for that, even if I wish I'd never had to learn it. 20 years after the wedding that never was, David and I were sitting on our porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. We were older now, gray threading through both our hair, lines on our faces that told the story of 2 decades together. Do you ever think about it? He asked. About what happened? About the wedding? Sometimes. Not as much as I used to. It feels like it happened to someone else, in another lifetime. Do you regret how you handled it? Blowing everything up in front of everyone? I thought about it, really thought about it. No. I don't regret it. It was dramatic, sure. But it was also honest. And it was the moment I stopped letting other people control my narrative. I took my power back, and that changed everything. You're pretty amazing, you know that? I'm pretty lucky. Lucky that the worst thing that ever happened to me led me to the best thing that ever happened to me. Which is? You, obviously. This life we've built. This love that's real and honest and true. He kissed me, soft and sweet, and I tasted 20 years of shared mornings and inside jokes and quiet moments just like this one. And I thought about that girl in the yellow kitchen, the one who thought she knew what love was, who thought she had everything figured out. She'd been wrong about so much. But she'd also been brave, braver than she'd known. And that bravery had led her here, to this porch, to this man, to this life that was so much better than anything she could have imagined. The wedding that never was had been the worst day of my life. But it had also been the beginning of my real life, the life I was meant to live. And for that, I was grateful. Not for the pain, not for the betrayal, but for the strength I'd found in surviving it. For the wisdom I'd gained in healing from it. For the love I'd discovered on the other side of it. Sweet home, I thought that morning 20 years ago, standing in my childhood kitchen. But home wasn't a place or a family or a relationship. Home was the peace I'd found within myself. Home was knowing my own worth and refusing to settle for less. Home was the life I'd built, brick by brick, choice by choice, day by day. And that home, the one I created, was sweeter than anything I'd lost.